Hey everyone, welcome to the first of welcome everyone to the first official episode of now titled Dad It Yourself ZA. With me is Sean Erasmus, MTB Dad. That side, I figured out this mirror camera.
Well done.
And on this side, it's myself, Andre Swart, Alpha Dog 1292. I mean, if you watched last week's pilot episode, or this week's pilot episode, I think we went live on Monday. Yeah, we must still decide on the upload schedule when we're actually going to do this.
Yeah, that'll come.
Yeah. But anyway,
Let's just figure out what we're doing here first.
yes, but before we figure out anything else, I just want to take a moment to just show that in the little corner, see, I didn't figure it out, but in that little corner, there's a thing that says listen to us. We are officially on Anchor and Spotify. We could have been on it a week ago if I clicked submit. I missed the button, but we are on it now. So if you want to have something to listen to while you're driving to work, while you're at work, maybe while in a meeting that you don't really need to listen to, pop us a
The
listen.
perk of virtual meetings nowadays, I guess.
Yeah, there's a video of a guy that did a social experiment where he pre-recorded videos for an entire week, and in his virtual meetings, he just played responses. And then after a week, he said to his boss, "Okay, cool. You see, this is what happened." So yeah,
I don't know. I don't know. The downside of that is like you kind of just proving you aren't really needed.
true.
If you can pre-record your contribution to meetings for an entire week.
Do you know how many times in a week I feel like I'm not needed at work, and then people come to me and they're like, "We need you." I'm like, no, you don't. You need you need the idea of me.
Let's run with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so
but
this week,
yes.
what are we talking about, Andre?
Well, we're gonna get pregnant, Sean. Or
I don't know if I'm ready for that.
well, it's too late for me. But essentially, we thought we're gonna kick off the series on episode 1 of 10 or 12, depending on how well it goes. We're gonna kick the series off with basically just talking on the topic of how we got pregnant, how we had struggles, the challenges, the knowns, the unknowns, that type of stuff. And I think Sean is going to start this one off because he had a kid before me. I still don't have a kid. That's happening in April. But yeah, Sean, I think I'm going to start it with a no, I think I'm just going to give it to you. Let's get pregnant.
Okay, so
I need a demonstration. We need a papaya and a boerewors sausage.
so I think we'll skip over that part. I think I'm going to make the assumption. Let's make the assumption that everyone listening now at this point understands the birds and the bees. I Speaking of which, did you ever get that talk from your parents? Because I didn't.
Dude, I got mine from a dude whose name I'm not going to name in like grade 4. He was in my class, but he like swore to me that he was the breaker and that he was doing like every chick in grade 7.
Oh
So,
my god.
so no, I never got to talk, eh? And
Okay.
yeah, look, it's not a talk I would want to have.
No.
I had ETV at midnight. Yeah.
My mom one night, like we were hanging out after supper. I can't even remember how old I was, and she said to me, she's like, "So, you know where babies come from, right?" I was like, yes. She's like, "Great." That was it.
Uh,
So
so
I'm just wondering, and
yeah,
and like I always wondered, I always thought, parents need to make a better effort of telling their kids, but
yeah.
like now, like I fast forward, say, I don't know, 50 years in Ivy's future when I have to give her the talk, or never, preferably. Like I don't even know where someone would start. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that I don't blame parents who don't have the talk. I think you should, but man, I don't even know where one starts. But anyway,
So I wish I had the talk, because I think in like grade 10 or 11 I only figured out where the baby comes out of.
yeah, probably when you're doing like proper biology.
No, I didn't have biology. I was in a technical high school. So I always thought.
Who needs to know about the human
So,
body?
so,
I mean,
so you know, I blame this on one of my friends that always said, a pregnant woman always takes a risk when going to the toilet. And I always thought, oh, because she's going to give birth. So that's where I thought the baby came out of. Up until like grade 11. You look confused.
I am very confused.
I thought
But anyway,
I thought it came out of the pooper, okay?
well, the talk is so important, and that's why we need to discuss these things.
Yes. So as I said that, the door opened and my wife just looks at me with like this, what are you talking about?
What kind of podcast are you running here?
Yeah. But anyway, okay, Sean, so
anyway.
let's go. You
Yeah.
Before we start this process, one thing that I thought of during dinner is the time that you think, or there's a time where it becomes like obvious, where you start thinking now it's time to start a family, and that's usually the time where the parents start asking, so when are you guys planning on having a kid, blah 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 blah.
Oh, they usually start asking you way before that.
I know. I got a phone call on our wedding night. No, I'm just joking. I'm a grap, yes. But anyway,
probably not long after.
Yeah. But anyway, continue getting pregnant.
Yeah. So I think just starting off, like Andres mentioned, Andrea and I struggled a little. We had a bit of a challenge. I mean, not nearly as bad as some cases that I've heard of. But yeah, ours was not really straightforward, I guess. So, I mean, the other thing was that, and this is always something I mention to people that are planning on getting pregnant or planning to start a family, is that you can't, when you think you just spoke about the timeline. When you are ready to have a family, you can't assume that you're going to go, okay, in July this year we want to start a family, and then that's when you'll fall pregnant. I mean, some cases it does work like that, but I think the norm is that it doesn't. It's going to take 2-3 months and plus, years for some people.
Unless you're in high school. Ek beloof, mama, dit was net 1 keer.
Yeah, that I don't understand.
Yeah.
Anyway, so our journey started back in 2015. We kind of got to that point that you had mentioned. We now ready. We had gotten married very young. We had spent a couple of years working and setting ourselves up, and we were at that point where we're like, okay, we're ready to start a family. So Andrea had gone for one of her normal checkups, and kind of had mentioned that to the doctor, and they said, okay, sure, well, let's take you, off of your pill and let your body kind of naturally prepare itself. Which is exactly what we did. We gave it a while, and then so we kind of had to. Sorry, I'm pulling way out of my memory here. We had to kind of know, or we both of us had kind of had the sense that maybe it wouldn't be so easy for us and it wouldn't come straightforward, even though we didn't necessarily speak to each other about it. And so we kind of went down a line. I think we gave it about 6 months. We were just, not look for any help, not get any assistance, just kind of do what needed to be done month by month, and take each month as it came. And eventually we hit our 6 month mark. It came very quickly because Andrea was still traveling quite a lot for work back then. So, like, I mean, you know what it's like. You have a very specific window
Sure.
that you can fall pregnant in. So there were 1 or 2 months out of the 6 that we just like completely missed that opportunity. Yeah, her cycles were quite unpredictable, so it was very difficult to plan. Yeah, so we got to our 6-month mark and we said, okay, you know, let's look for some help. So at that point, we booked an appointment at a fertility clinic. They're pretty busy, or were back then at least. I don't know what it's like at the moment. But I think we could only get our first appointment 3 months later or so. So I mean, that in itself like pushes out your timeline by a quarter of a year. So we carried on and we went in and we got checked. When I say we got checked, it's both of you that get checked actually. You know, they make sure that everything is sort of in line and you know that there's no major complication and no reason for you to not fall pregnant.
Sure.
So at this time they diagnosed Andrea with PCOS, polycystic ovary syndrome, which does make it a little bit more tricky to fall pregnant. Not obviously not impossible, but just a little bit more tricky than normal. And it obviously has a couple of other side effects too, which and in very varying degrees of severity. And of course, what makes sense at the same time is that the husband gets tested too, and you know there's a swim team involved, and they kind of need to check what their capability is like, and there are 3 tests, like or 3 things that they analyze.
Yeah.
It's like longevity, volume, and something else. I could be making that up, but I think that's what they are. And
it's count per millimeter or millimeter per milliliter or something like that. Yeah.
It's like so it's like the volume or the density rather than volume. Longevity, and then like I think like activity, like how fast they move, and like So anyway, so test results for me came back and it was everything was fine except for one of them. I think it was, I'm going to be guessing, so I'm not even going to try. One of them was like a little bit below average. So when you overlay like Andrea's PCOS with my sort of minor or under optimized swim team, it complicated it a little bit more. So, but their recommendation was, you know, it's not impossible, a little bit tricky, but they wouldn't say that, immediately off the mark that we needed help.
Yeah.
So so they said, I think that what they said at the time was, you know, give it another 3 months, and if not, then the first step that we'll try is AI, which is not artificial intelligence.
I just want to say artificial intelligence.
It is artificial, but it's artificial insemination.
Yeah.
So it's not so it's basically the one where they take the sample from the husband and then they basically place it where it needs to be, as opposed to letting it swim naturally or hoping that it swims there naturally.
It's like taking all the ingredients, throwing it in the bowl, mixing the bread, and putting it in the oven.
Yeah. Hopefully they don't mix it with anything, but yes. By the way, on that note, obviously you can imagine when you go through that process, you're very nervous about there being a mistake. So they told me that, you know, they don't arrange the AIs anywhere near each other. So there's no remote chance of it ever going wrong.
What is that movie where the guy goes into the sperm bank and accidentally knocks over the trays and mixing it up? I think it's called it's the Switch. I think it's called The Switch. I lost you.
I'm back. Sorry.
There we go. By the
you
way,
shouldn't be using a phone for this.
By the way, this is uncut, unedited, except for something that happened that was caused by a minor technical difficulty in episode 0. that technical difficulty being my mouth. Okay, so continue.
So basically, I mean, where were we now? We were at the point where.
Feel free to check out your blog at any time when you need to remember.
I am. I'm referencing it right now. That's how far back we have gone.
Yeah.
So we gave it the 3 months, and you can imagine how quickly those 3 months go by, because
I know.
Because you kind of go, okay, you get that tiny little 2 or 3 day window where the testing, where the procedure has to happen. Let's call it the procedure. And so the stars are aligned, you do what you need to do, and then you have to wait to see if it worked, basically until 2-3 weeks later. And then it's this repetitive cycle. So like you go through it and you're hoping for the best, you're optimistic, and then it fails, and then obviously you are both quite upset by it, and creates a bit of tension in the relationship too, I would say.
Yeah.
And because you both upset, but you both don't want to be upset, and it's just this extra complication in your relationship. And so we went back, and at that point we decided that it was time to do the AI. So at this point we've already tested. They know that the sample is good, and all that's really needed to do is that, you need to set the date, based obviously on the ovulation cycle, and the day itself is pretty hectic. So leading up to it, the woman has to basically be sort of tracked along a timeline to make sure that the progression happens as expected. What can also happen, which is what happened to us, is that there are a couple of hormone injections that you do along the way to make sure that it kind of helps the process along, which is an interesting situation in itself. So they give you these little syringe kits. So it's a little bottle with a powder, and a little bottle with a liquid, and then the actual syringe. You have to break the bottle with the liquid, suck up the liquid, inject it into the powder, then suck that powder up, change the needle on the syringe, and then inject your wife in the stomach.
No, dankie.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that if you told me that now as well, I would also be like, no way. But when you don't
inject yourself.
No, you inject no.
No
ways.
Not
I
you.
wouldn't be able to inject myself, so I couldn't expect Andrea to do it. So I knew she needed me to do it.
Can't you drink it?
So anyway, so you have to do that, which is an interesting scenario in itself, because it's obviously something. There's no reason for you to have done something like that in your relationship before, and so I remember I tried all strange things to try and distract Andrea as I injected it. Like I would make her think about something, and immediately, basically without her expecting it, inject her.
like taking a toddler for injection.
Yeah, it's pretty much like that. And so you do these hormone injections, and then when you get to the sort of expected date for the ovulation, they kind of check again, and if it's not progressed as it should have or about to happen, there's also a trigger shot injection. So that's like a 4th or 5th injection, depending on how many you've done up until that stage. And what happened with our one is that the hormone one you kind of just do in the morning, so there's no exact time. It's just a daily thing. But this one has to be done like almost to the hour, and it's basically calculated backwards from when the AI is going to happen. So there's like an hour window where it has to be done. So I remember the specific day that it happened. I had promised Andrea that I would obviously do it, but it was like, I think it was 4:30 or 5 in the afternoon. And I mean, we worked together for a long time. There was a bit of chaos at work, and I just couldn't leave, like as badly as I wanted to be there. I was just leading up to it. I was messaging her, and I was like, I'll be there. I promise I'll be there. I promise I'll be there. And then all of a sudden the wheels came off and I couldn't get there. So I had to like message her and say, look, I'm not going to make it in time. and we can't risk missing the window or being late. So Andrea like kind of half like closed her eyes, marched downstairs, grabbed it out the fridge because I think she was keeping this one in the fridge, and injected herself. And she just all of a sudden got a message from her. She's like, "It's done. I did it myself." I was like, "Wow, that is amazing. That is commitment. Couldn't believe it." Yeah. So that's done. Then there's a specific window. I can't remember if it's 12 or 36 hours. But anyway, it's either or. And then obviously the main part, I want to say the main part because now I'm going to get told this because I'm the husband. The main part is getting the sample ready to be implanted or inserted, I get inseminated. And that also can't be done too long before the process. So there's also a very set window, and also from I need to choose my words very carefully here now. The window from dropping it off to
shipping it to shipping
leaving,
it.
Collecting the sample. On the form, you actually have to say method of collection. And
missed the delivery.
Uber. You have to, I think it's like an hour. So you have an hour from making it happen to getting it to the fertility clinic.
Okay.
So obviously that is an interesting scenario as well, because so this happened in the morning before work on one of the days. Basically, got our collection or did the collection at home because we refused to do it any other way. Andrew and I did it as a team, I guess, and drove as like lightning. Andrew stayed at home. Drove like lightning to the fertility clinic. And now
you could have skipped all of that if you just did it at the fertility clinic.
Yeah, but that's what I don't want to do. It's just weird. It's just weird because also like, does Andrea come with me or like not, or it's just too much. It's just like the whole situation was like weird enough already. So we had already decided, we're like, no, this is happening at home. It was like the one part that we could control. And so like obviously I'd worked it out. My timing was pretty good, but I'd worked out that I would get there in about 45 minutes and I would have 15 minutes to spare. So I'm like, I park at the hospital, or at this time the clinic was still inside St. George's Hospital. So parked at the clinic and ran towards the where the casualty door is. And I'm running with this little brown paper bag in my hand. And I get to the door and there's like it's all boarded up because they're doing construction. I was like, no, I only know how to get there from this entrance. I have no idea. So anyways, I run around the whole hospital with my little brown bag. I go into the main entrance and I kind of just use my intuition to know that, okay, I need to head in that sort of general direction. And I'm kind of just making my way, trying to get there, watching the clock because I know I'm running out of time now. I've got like 5 minutes left or something. And at one point I ran and basically smashed straight into like a wave of nurses, like all coming towards me. And as I got to them, I was like, can you please just show me where the fertility clinic is? Because I'm lost. And they're like, sure. And as they turned me around, I looked down and it was like a no entry sign, one-way traffic kind of thing for staff only, that because I was in a flat spin panic, I ran straight through it. So anyway, pointed me in the right direction. I got there, dropped off my little paper bag. I didn't even get a tip, like, even though I delivered it perfectly on time.
Yeah.
And yeah, so then that happens. Then you leave, and then a couple of hours later, your wife goes into the clinic. They've done their washing process and checking and whatever they do on their side, and then they do the insemination. So like, I wasn't even present. It was weird.
Hectic.
So like a very far out concept.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you wait, and and I suppose let me stop there because I've been talking a lot.
No, it's only been 25, I think, minutes.
no, but so I'm gonna stop at this point where basically we've done everything we can.
Yeah.
And we are hoping for the best at this point.
Okay, but let's just finish it off seeing that this is the name of the thing.
Okay, fair enough.
So
Fair enough. So obviously,
did it work?
So yeah, the same thing happens. You have to wait and just like hope and pray for the best and just see what happens. So we were obviously super anxious. So Andrea did her test a day earlier or a day or two earlier than she was supposed to. And the line on the pregnancy test was like very faint for pregnant.
Okay.
Just like she had like sent messages to her sisters and like, is this pregnant or not? What is your opinion? and so anyway, and that came home and like it looked like there was a chance. So she went in, did a test, and I think they test HCG levels, which is a hormone.
But that's the next episode.
Yeah. Anyway, so they checked that, and let me not go too far down the line.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it was too early to tell, so we had to go back and had to double check the levels, and yeah, we got the levels had like increased dramatically by the next day. So we're like, how many kids? It worked, but how many kids are there? And that's I guess where this one ends for me.
Okay, so yay, it worked. I knew it worked. So yeah, but really in the what do you call it, description below, we'll post a link to Sean's blog where he describes it in detail with Lumineer concerts and Plettenberg Bay and
things that happened when we were distracting ourselves.
Yeah, so I'll be sure to link it down below. But yeah, I essentially used that as a guideline for myself, because for some reason I also thought that we would struggle, not because of my wife, but just because I've got some bad luck sometimes. So in a nutshell, and the funny thing is, like Sean, the one thing is, now we discussed it now in the podcast. I bet you that 80% of people that will watch this, that know us, including my parents actually, wouldn't even have known what we are discussing now. It's like, it's the behind the scenes that people don't know about. And it's the whole thing about where you get the teenage pregnancies. It's like, I don't know how I got pregnant. Yes, you do.
Mama, you definitely do.
Mama,
you definitely do.
Mama, ek beloof dit was dit een keer. Nee, dit was nie.
No.
So
it can't be.
So we pretty much decided that, okay, we got married in 2018. We either got married just before. Wait, I think
you were working with me when you guys got married.
Yeah. But I think Ivy was just born. She
could have been, yes. She was in March 2018.
March 2018, yes, I remember. So we got married in 2018, and we decided 1 year. We're giving it 1 year. No chance of a kid in the first year. And okay, obviously stayed on the pill, or whatever you call it, and we lived life. And then I think 3 months before our first year anniversary, we decided, okay, it's now time to go off, let the system clean out, and on our 1 year anniversary, or from on our 1 year anniversary, we would tried.
Did your 1 year anniversary align with ovulation cycles?
Oh no, shit! I didn't. What's that? Like we didn't. This is the part where I'm going to get to. So we didn't even bother that to check that type of stuff.
Okay.
I mean, teenagers get pregnant all the time.
It really can't be difficult to fall pregnant.
Exactly. Anyway, so it happened, and I was like, okay, cool. I'm a dad. Like that was the logic. Like, this is happening now. And yeah, first test happened, And because you kind of want it so badly, every single time there's like I'm not feeling too lacquer. It's like, yes, morning sickness or something. So yeah, anyway, didn't work the first time. And we pretty much then continued trying for about a year. To the point where we were like, okay, so maybe something's wrong. And that's when I started looking at the blog and stuff. And also, like, we work together. Sometimes it wasn't like, sorry if anybody's watching it, but sometimes it wasn't the most healthiest of times, if you can call it that. Eating junk food.
I mean, I think what you're alluding to is a stressful
Yes.
environment is not conducive for either the male or the female.
Yeah.
Um,
So,
Yeah.
so essentially, it comes down to that. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, then Nadine had a checkup at the gynae, like a annual one or whatever, and they said that everything's fine. And immediately I was like, shit, everything's fine.
that means it's
What am I doing wrong? And like I was trying to convince myself, like, it can take the pill maybe like a year to work out of the system and things like that. But I'm probably missing a lot of parts. And when my wife is going to watch this, she's going to say, oh, but what about that? What about that? What about that?
100%. I mean, I'm reading from my blog post while talking, and I know I missed things.
So,
and Andrea helped me write that because I couldn't remember all the facts.
But for the sake of time, I'm just continuing. Oh no. Yeah, I'm getting there. I was just informed of something I need to remember.
You said a name too many times.
And, you know what? I freaking closed the door. I don't know what this is. So anyway. Yes, okay. So then last year sometime, I think I sent you a message. So like, Sean, I need to ask you a weird question. And you were like, the response that I got from Sean was, don't leave your wife for somebody. It's not worth it. and I was like, no, Sean, that's not it.
But that couldn't have been how you asked it. You must have asked it in a different way.
Yeah, man. I was like, Sean, I have to ask you a serious. It was something like, Sean, I need to ask you a serious question. And
yes.
And at that time, I was playing live streaming games with like a semi-famous South African Twitch streamer, and the joke goes around that I can't. Basically, the joke goes around that I simp around female gamers. It's not the case.
Exactly. It's simple as that.
Okay. Anyway, so I said to Sean, look, we've been trying for a year. I can't seem to extract out of the blog exactly where to go to, but I think it's like time to get like stuff tested and whatnot. And gave me some contacts, or at least names. I googled it and I phoned, and they were like fully booked up. And like I remember the phone call. I phoned them. I'm like, look, my wife is fine. There's something wrong with me. I need to test myself. and then they said, sir, that's not how it works. We test both. Blah blah blah. Like basically what you explained. And then they gave me the price, and I was like, that's not happening.
No, I'm fine.
Yeah, no. I mean, what's another 2 years? But then, it's either that lady or a guy, I can't remember, from that clinic that I phoned, that said, why, if you think your wife is fine, why don't you buy yourself a, and let's call it a swim tester from online. I was like,
oh really?
Okay.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yes, it is. So they sell the kit on Takealot. It's 429 Rand. I can link it below.
Once again, this podcast is not endorsed by anybody.
Especially swim testers. But anyway, so we ordered the kit. It arrived. Quite weird. This little cup that comes with it, and like an extraction tool and everything. It looks like a tiny little pregnancy test, but nonetheless, you deposit, you let it stand for a little bit, and you put it in and you leave it for another 45 minutes, the longest 45 minutes of my life. And then
I can imagine.
And then it shows you lines, and the number of lines equal to the amount per milliliter or something. And yeah, and I checked the lines and I was like, okay, it's decent. So now what are we doing wrong?
Yes.
Then I think that Nadine got some study or something online with regards to ovulation periods versus the go time versus the windows, and basically how you as a person can manually track it.
Okay.
Medically.
Yes.
Not
using the moon.
Not using the moon, although my theory worked so far.
Let's come back to that. Let's circle right back to the moon theory.
But anyway, I see we're like on the 40-minute mark, but minus 5 minutes.
Oh,
so we're like on the 35-minute mark. But anyway, okay. I'm going to keep going. So we bought a lot of these ovulation tests, and it was a case of like, I'm sorry if I'm sharing too much detail, but it was a case of her going to the bathroom, coming back, it's like, it's go time. It's like, sorry, this thing is showing a good reading, it's go time. And
super romantic.
It's super romantic, but like, it was a business transaction. Like, it had to happen.
Oh, yeah.
Like we spent so much time planning it out. And like, I remember, I'm not going to go into that detail, but it was a long week. Anyway, I just want to pause there and go back like a couple of months before we knew this. And I think one of the most disheartening things every single time is when you try the pregnancy test and it's negative the whole time.
Yes. Very difficult to describe that feeling.
And that puts you in like a super, super, super crap mindset. Because it's the whole time like, am I good enough? Am I not good enough? You know, and then it brings you back to the family bride. It's like, when are you giving me grandchildren?
Yeah.
And
you can't talk about it.
You kind of want to say like, believe me, we're trying, but you can't. So that's just one point I wanted to bring up. Anyway,
it's a very valid point because like it's this weird time in your life where you feel super stressed out, but you can't really talk to anybody because the more people that know, the more stressful it becomes because there's this expectation.
Exactly. So, okay, fast forward now, like, okay, something also happened during that time where we had like planned everything out scientifically and we had the charts and the tests, and I can't remember what it was, but for some reason we missed one window.
Yeah.
And I remember I said to her, like, if this is the reason why this didn't work, I am going to be so peed off with myself.
Yeah.
She was like, she was cool about it. Like, we've got time. It's going to happen when it happens. Very supportive. I think I was much more negative towards everything because for me it was like it's not working, but at the same time I had to take into consideration that it's also not been working for her. So and like you say, it's like it's tension, but it's also not tension, and it's just a weird situation. Anyway, we then went walking with the dogs one afternoon. And it was like just when you were allowed to start walking with dogs again, like lockdown period, like after the initial 21 days or whatever, or the whatever 48. I think we're on day 300 today.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, but anyway, it's like right off that, and she ran with Alfie the Golden, and if that was a virus threat that came through, I'm sorry, that the noise in the headset. Anyway,
Didn't hear it.
no, you wouldn't hear it.
Ah,
Anyway, and she stepped with her ankle skew, and it sounded like a branch breaking the way her ankle, let's say twist, because it did twist,
Yes.
but not badly.
Yeah.
It's just like a sprain. Anyway,
yeah.
she on the ground, I can't walk, blah, blah, blah. And then, like, still champion to walk around the block with the dog, like half limping.
Yeah.
And we get home, and instead of saying, let's put ice on it, I said, why don't we do a pregnancy test? Like, I don't know. Like, I just had an idea, let's do one. Anyway. So she did one, and she came out with that sad face, like, yeah, one stripe. Puts it down on the freaking kitchen counter, and walks away, and we go about it. And I still remember I was on the couch, like, watching Netflix or something, and I said to her, yeah, I'm quite down about it. I'm not even gonna beat around the bush. I'm down. And she looked at it and she said, yeah, if that second line just wants to be a little bit more dark. I said to her, what second line?
You can see a second line.
And she showed me, and I looked at it, and I was like, bring the phone torch. And I shined the phone torch, and I'm like, there's definitely a second line if you use your imagination. We got into the car, drove to Clicks,
Got some more.
probably 700 rands worth of, no, not 700, it was probably like 500 rands worth of pregnancy tests later. We got the one with the little digital display, and it showed up 1 to 2 weeks or something, which meant like my window worked.
Yes. So that's the clear blue test. Eh?
Yeah, the clear blue.
Yeah, it's the more expensive one.
Yes.
So that's exactly what we did. We like, for all the normal tests, we did that one, and then as soon as it was like, hey, maybe this is we're onto something, then we'd go with the clear blue.
Yeah, and then that was it. We're pregnant. Like I remember we were like super happy about it. I was like, we are telling no one, and like the next day we like told her mom. But I like knew
it does happen.
Yeah, I knew I couldn't like tell my parents right away, because then everybody would know.
Same as my dad.
I wasn't too worried about my dad. I was more worried about my mom telling my gran. My gran knows the entire of Uitenhage, and somehow the entire of Uitenhage sort of knows me, because of my gran. But that's a story for another day.
Shout out to your gran.
Hello, Omar.
So, what was I going to ask you now?
Yeah.
Was your realization of being pregnant like it is in the movies, like this beautiful celebration moment, or was it kind of like, oh, that's cool?
No. It was, to be honest, I couldn't remember. I just remember Nadine keep on saying to me in Afrikaans, like, ons is swanger, like with this super excited voice. And yeah, but obviously we did this so early on, and yeah, then the wait happened, and yeah, but anyway, we're going to talk about the weeks 4 to 30, or how many ever long you're pregnant. We'll talk about that next week in episode 2. Yay, we're pregnant. Now what? That's the title of the episode.
Yeah, that's going to be a goodie.
Yeah. But Sean, with that, I think we discussed everything we had to discuss.
I would say.
Okay, cool. I just don't want to.
I'm pretty sure there's plenty that both of us left out, but yeah. I think we've gotten our points across.
But I mean, let's be honest. I don't really think we're gonna stop after episode 12.
No,
No,
I must admit, I'm having a great time doing these. So
no, same, same. Except the fact that I edit the one video like 3 times.
I,
Um,
I didn't know, I didn't actually know about the Nadine's ankle thing when you guys found out. You
yeah,
never ever told me about that.
yeah, like that was like completely back of the mind. Like
Yeah,
she's
but
so
it's like it's quite a like an imperative detail.
yeah, I know, I know. And the funny thing is, like, she actually had to go to the chiropractor to get herself sorted out.
Same.
Not too long ago. Like, she was pregnant, and they had to like put the little belly cushion and everything for her because
Okay.
the ankle, the twist caused her to like walk semi skew. So her parents
Yes,
would
because
like, yeah, she was not
uh,
stepping correctly on the foot.
oh, shame.
But yeah, no, I mean that kind of, yeah, that was the beginning of Let's Test. But yeah, no, it's
Excellent.
but yeah, we are I think 28, 29 weeks, 28 going to 29, 12, 10 weeks left depending on when he decides to come. So
He's ready to join us.
yeah, and yeah, super excited. But to end off, I just want to say a couple of things. We are working on a logo. Dezo's Pizza won't be here for much longer. Um,
It's,
yeah,
just offend me too much.
no, but I always feel bad using other artists like their royalty-free gifs or pictures. Um,
Fair enough.
Especially if the site doesn't list them. Like usually, if they list them, I tip them or I send them a mail saying, "Hey, I'm using your thing. Send me your PayPal or your Bitcoin or whatever," and I give some money, like I did with my little pug thingy over here. But to close off, working on a logo, you can soon catch us on hopefully Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. We are working on that. Currently, we are on Anchor and Spotify. Links below.
Bottom left.
Yes, yes. And yeah, if you like what you see, then like. If you don't like, just move on. If you feel like you want to come back, hit the subscribe button. And thank you to the 8 people that watched our first little video. And you know what? I think to me it's actually quite like 8 people doesn't sound like a lot, but I just uploaded it. I didn't tell anybody.
Well, it exceeded my expectations, so
Yeah, it was the pilot. The pilot was done
yeah.
in a little grainy 720p upload. This will be 1080p 60 frames. No, it won't be 60 frames. I really just spotted that I recorded in 30 frames per second. I apologize. But
Higher.
yeah, but it will be in 1080p. And yeah, we will discuss when we are going to do our uploads, and we will hopefully soon have some socials going on Instagram for Dad It Yourself Zede, the official name of the podcast. We will hopefully have a Twitter account. We'll hopefully have a Facebook page soon. All that in the coming weeks. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. Sean, I guess you appreciate it.
Of course.
Yeah. And yeah, till next time. Cheerio.